Yo, what is up, everybody? It's Joe. Welcome back to another Naruto reaction video here today. And today we got another requested video by y'all. So once again, thank you for the requests. Keep them coming because I will bring you what you guys want to see. This is Sasuke vs. Madara by the great Swagkage. Now, for you guys, I've been watching for some time. You guys already know I did Could Adult Sasuke Beat Madara by Seth the Programmer. So we heard his opinion on this. So now we're going to hear Swagkage's opinion on this. And, you know, on one side we have Sasuke, with him being the strongest Uchiha ever, if you look at his adult Sasuke version, you know, once he has his six-path amps and he has years of experience, he's a man at that point. On the other side, we have Madara, the second strongest Uchiha ever. You know, so this is quite the matchup, and I'm sure it's quite tightly debated within the Naruto fandom. I'm sure of it. If I were to look it up, there'd be people on both sides of the spectrum. But before we begin, you know, any love, really appreciate it. Hit that like button, turn on bell notifications to stay up with yours truly. And if you are new and you enjoy, and maybe this is your first time seeing the kid, hit that sub button, man, because once you do, you become part of the family forever. But it's not wasting more time. Screen. Let's see what Swag says about this one.
How's it going, everybody? Swag
what up?
Here, and welcome to another versus battle video. Today we're going to be talking about Sasuke versus Madara, and anybody who's been watching my videos for a while should know that I'm pretty excited about this because these are my two favorite characters in the whole series. Another reason in particular,
I definitely get it, man. You guys are lit.
Uploading this is whenever I make a versus battle video, no matter who it includes and no matter who wins, I always get told every single time that the reason whoever won came out on top is because of my own personal bias. You only let
it's inevitable. You're always gonna get that, right?
More than the other one. That whole type deal.
Right, right.
I mean, like, I'm a hype beast for both Sasuke and Madara, so if you don't like how this video turns out, I mean, like, I don't know what to tell you, dude, but it definitely isn't because I'm biased for or against either.
Right.
Anyway, moving on to the battle itself. I'm gonna structure it like I do.
Can't satisfy everybody, right?
Videos where we take both characters,
is what it is.
Versions of them from different points in time, match these corresponding forms against one another, then move on and do the same. One thing I should point out for this battle in particular, though, is because there are no feats for any form of Madara that comes before Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan Madara, like the only points of reference we have are for the Madara that fought Hashirama in the Valley of the End, and everything after that. I'm gonna have to exclude a lot of forms of Sasuke because, like, I don't want to go matching up heavy Sasuke against somebody who can use the perfect Susanoo, and since Madara
he gets slapped, he gets clapped,
known counterparts to heavy Sasuke, like with feats comparable to his or whatever, I'm just gonna stick with the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan forms of both characters and anything that comes after. So for round one, I've got Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan Sasuke fighting Edo Tensei Madara. And as much as I'd like to say that this is an interesting battle where both competitors put up a decent fight, it's not even close.
Agreed.
Madara rips Sasuke in half, and I wouldn't be able to debate otherwise to save my life. Let's compare their Susanoo first. So Sasuke Susanoo, it's pretty big. It's like 10 times as tall as he is, has a big old bow, good stuff. But Madara's Susanoo is really big.
Monster. It's a monster.
Taking a look at his, Sasuke's doesn't really look all that large anymore. And now this is really important because since Sasuke's like ultimate strongest jutsu is just a weaker version of Madara's, it's like really hard to argue that he comes out on top here, or even that he'd pose a challenge. But just to be generous, let's say we restrict use of the perfect Susanoo for this.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Madara has access to everything else, but he just can't use perfect Susanoo, just to give Sasuke a little bit more of a chance here. I mean, Sasuke still doesn't do anything. Madara has unlimited chakra, he can do everything with the Susanoo that Sasuke can, and he can also create wood clones that can just pull the Susanoo out on their own. So, I mean, while Sasuke might have one Susanoo, Madara can drop at least 25, and then there's all the Rinnegan shenanigans he can pull off. Absorbing jutsu, creating big old force fields that can launch people away, pulling people towards him with telekinesis, firing missiles and laser beams, sucking people's souls out, creating mini floating black holes that suck up everything around them and suspend them in the air. And last but not least, summoning gigantic meteors. Plural, by the way, because he can summon 2 at once. So if by some miracle Sasuke manages to stop the first one, a second one would follow suit pretty quickly and would crush him to death without resistance. I mean, the most powerful stuff stuff that Sasuke has at his disposal, like Kirin, the Susanoo, the Amaterasu. Madara has counters to all of it. He could absorb both Kirin and Amaterasu, and his Susanoo would be more than capable of dealing with Sasuke's, especially because, like I mentioned earlier, he can create wood clones which can use their own Susanoo. Speaking of wood clones, Madara also has wood release, which also means he's capable of altering the terrain at any given moment, which can generate all sorts of different advantages for him. So, next up is EMS Sasuke versus Alive Madara, not the Alive Madara that was brought back with Rene Tensei, but Madara before he even died in the first place, the one that fought Hashirama, with Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. So, this is sort of the same deal as the last fight, in the sense that Sasuke loses really badly if I don't restrict Madara's use of the perfect Susanoo, and I mean, maybe some of you think I'm exaggerating on that or overstating that or whatever, but there's really nothing Sasuke could do about this ability that gives Madara a sword that can cut the tops of mountains off. Also, this Madara has something else that needs to be restricted, and that is his ability to summon the Nine Tails. Don't get me wrong, I know Sasuke is strong, like really strong, but he is not strong enough to fight the full-powered Kyuubi. Especially at the same time as he's fighting fucking Madara Uchiha. So, no Nine Tails and no perfect Susanoo, otherwise Sasuke gets annihilated. So if you restrict both of those things, then it's like, well, okay, the match becomes a little less clear-cut. But there's one line from Hashirama that a lot of people bring up when discussing Valley of the End Alive Madara in versus battles, and that's when Hashirama says he's regaining his former strength shortly after Madara's revival with the Rene Tensei, as if to imply that living Madara without the Rinnegan, without wood release, without Sage Mode, was stronger than Edo Tensei Madara was. There are multiple ways you could look at this.
Yeah, you can apply that,
it's possible that even considering this, Edo Tensei Madara could still beat living Madara in a fight, given all of the new things he has at his disposal. Maybe he's an overall
Now that's an interesting battle.
Regardless, Hashirama's statement means that living Madara is physically much more powerful than Edo Madara is. So Sasuke doesn't really have much of a chance in Taijutsu here, I don't think.
No, he does not.
He's strong, I agree. But Madara ran through the entire 4th Division while weakened by Edo Tensei and dominated them in hand-to-hand combat. I mean, we don't know what Madara's Mangekyo Sharingan abilities are, so maybe Amaterasu and Enton Kagatsuchi could give Sasuke the edge here. Maybe the fact that his Susanoo has a ranged weapon in the form of the crossbow, that might give him an advantage here, but there's just too much going against him. I mean, Madara's got better fire jutsu feats, better hand-to-hand combat feats. I mean, the guy fought Hashirama at full power. And I mean, I know we're restricting the Nine Tails and his perfect Susanoo here, but if that's the case, I feel like we should also prevent Sasuke from summoning Aota. This is the snake that he made a summoning contract with after Manda died. Anyway, if we don't hit Sasuke with this restriction, then maybe it's possible that he might be able to beat Madara. I mean, it's kind of tough to say because there aren't a whole lot of panels showing us the fight between Madara and Hashirama, or just the stuff that Madara did before he was revived in general. And since I'm restricting both the perfect Susanoo and the Kyuubi, which did take up a lot of Madara's panel time during Hashirama's flashbacks, it's really hard to say. The audience isn't given enough info about pre-Edo Madara's abilities to make a call under these specific circumstances. My educated guess would be to say that Madara still beats Sasuke because, I mean, they actually did fight under similar conditions when Madara was first brought back with the Rene Tensei. Madara was completely blind, and while he did have Sage Mode, he was able to effortlessly avoid all of Sasuke's attacks. And
it was no diff.
No diff. Give its user a massive buff to both reaction time and their ability to analyze their opponent's movements. The Sharingan does the same thing, albeit not as efficiently. Now that said, I don't think the discrepancy is great enough to make up for the clear difference in physical ability between Sasuke and Madara shown here, especially considering Madara was much more experienced with using the Sharingan than he was with using Sage Mode at this point. So like I said, while I'm aware that the buff isn't as large, I think the Mangekyo Sharingan would allow him to avoid attacks from Sasuke under these conditions, even if he does face a little bit of difficulty when trying to do so. Next round is EMS Sasuke versus...
Before we get to the next round, I had to speak on this, a live EMS Madara versus EMS Sasuke. Alright, so that encounter right there that you see on the screen, Madara was in Sage Mode. And as we know, you get quite the amp when you're in Sage Mode. Now, he was blind, but once again, he was in Sage Mode. Now, it's clear to me that Madara is stronger than Sasuke. And it's also something to keep in mind. It's also true that Edo Tensei, you get weakened when you're in Edo Tensei compared to your live version. Now, obviously, Madara got some other abilities in the Edo Tensei form. You got Hashirama cells, you got Sage Mode, all this other good stuff. But EMS Madara, all right, alive, is obviously stronger, probably stronger than the one that fought the 5 Kage, the Edo Tensei that fought the 5 Kage, Edo Tensei Madara. Now, he did have the Rinnegan, but I still lean towards Madara alive EMS, despite him having the Rinnegan as Edo Tensei against the 5 Kage. All right, so Sasuke is just outmatched. I mean, he's outmatched in my opinion. Now, thinking of the Amaterasu, I don't think it'd be a problem because we've seen Edo Tensei Madara react to KCM2 Naruto. So he's relative in speed to that version of Naruto, which is quite fast. Quite fast. Basically a lightning timer, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So Madara would be quicker than Sasuke. I think we can all agree with that. He could probably blitz Sasuke, and I think Amaterasu wouldn't be a problem. Also, Sasuke, he's just inferior. Taijutsu, inferior. Ninjutsu, inferior. Stamina, I'm sure he's inferior. Even with the EMS, I think he definitely would be exhausted before Madara was exhausted. All right, so Madara fought Hashirama for days, and Hashirama has some of the most insane amounts of chakra out of anyone in the Naruto verse ever. So I think he could outlast Sasuke. I'd say Sasuke keeps spamming Amaterasu and Madara can't really get close. Eventually he'd get to him. He could outlast Sasuke. There's also that possibility. To me, I still think that he could probably blitz Sasuke before he can even hit him with Amaterasu. That's my opinion. If you take away the Susanoo and you take away, the other stuff that Swag talked about, even if Sasuke gets his summon, Manda, I believe, I still think that summon would not be a damn problem. I think Madara could probably scorch that shit alive with his fire style, easily. You saw what his fire style is capable of as an Edo Tensei against, specialists, and a big number of them. He was negating, his fire style was negating the other's fire style, or whatever it was, against his. So he's obviously vastly powerful when it comes to ninjutsu and the output of energy that he's capable of doing. So Sasuke would lose this one. He'd lose this one pretty clear cut. Is it impossible for him to win? I don't think so. Maybe he could clip Madara with an Indra's arrow. I don't know what he could do. He's just inferior in this. Hand to hand, he loses every time. That's not even a discussion. Even with with his EMS, Madara with his EMS, he's vastly superior in Taijutsu. I think we can all safely say that and agree with that. Madara would just break Sasuke down. He would overpower Sasuke, overwhelm Sasuke, and probably eventually kill him. Sasuke would survive a little bit. Maybe his summoning would help him just a little bit. But like I said, Madara would take care of that, no problem. And like Swag said, we didn't see what Madara really capable of alive. It's just the scenes we get to see against Hashirama. Obviously, he has a 9-tail, and he needed that against Hashirama because Hashirama's fucking powerful, more powerful than Sasuke in this version. I think we can safely say that. There's probably other ninjutsu that we're not even aware of that he's capable of. So I don't know. I think Madara wins this almost every single time, Edo or alive. That's just my opinion. But let's continue on to the next round.
This is Rene Tensei Alive Madara, so the one that had Hashirama Sage Mode, one Rinnegan, that one. You guys know the one. And,
right.
I just mentioned this, so the outcome should be pretty obvious, but this already happened, and Madara beat Sasuke up really badly. He dodged all of his attacks, and the fight ended with Madara holding Sasuke up with one of his Limbo clones, taking Sasuke's sword, stabbing him through the heart with it. It was really brutal. Sasuke didn't stand a chance, and so,
no
Madara
chance.
Takes
Agreed.
This one because he actually won. Next round is
agreed.
Rinnegan Sage of Six Paths Chakra Sasuke versus Jubi Madara, but not like full power Jubi Madara, and not even one Rinnegan Jubi Madara, but one Rinnegan pre-World Tree Jubi Madara. So this is the Jubi Madara that fought 8th Gate Guy, the one that Sage of Six Paths Naruto beat up before he entered his Kyuubi Chakra mode. Now, if Madara's fight with Naruto was any indication, he'd probably lose here because Naruto and Sasuke were pretty close close together in terms of strength. Now, Naruto was significantly more powerful. This is made pretty clear if you read the fight with Kaguya, and if you even read the fight between Naruto and Sasuke, because Sasuke attacked Naruto with killer intent, and Naruto was holding back from sure he didn't kill Sasuke, and the two were still evenly matched. Basically, I'm just trying to say that I'm not saying Rinnegan Sasuke is just as strong as Sage of Six Paths Naruto is, but he's in the same ballpark, and because of how much stronger Naruto clearly was than Madara in this fight, I'm probably just gonna give it to Sasuke without getting into too much detail. I mean, Sasuke even managed to blitz a nearly full power Jubi Jinchuriki Madara. He only had one of his Rinnegan, but I mean, I can't see any reason why that would affect his movement speed, especially because he wasn't looking at Sasuke when the blitz happened. But he had absorbed the World Tree at this point, and yeah, Sasuke just came up right behind him and cut him in half from behind. It was pretty crazy. Not to mention, Sasuke can teleport, and he got a couple good hits in against World Tree absorbed Madara, so bearing that in mind, I think Sasuke takes this. You know, he's got access to the perfect Susanoo now. He has all of Madara's crazy Rinnegan abilities. I mean, Madara still has his Six-Path Sage mode and Hashirama's Wood Cells, but in terms of raw power, Sasuke should outclass him here. At this point, he can also see Madara's Limbo clone, which makes it a lot easier for him to deal with it. He won't be getting picked up by surprise and stabbed through the heart again, that's for sure. I mean, there are still a lot of ways that Madara could possibly take it, but I see Sasuke winning the majority of the fights here. This is a little bit hard to talk about without getting into
I think that one's close. It's pretty close in my opinion.
And hopefully by the end of that round, I'll have addressed everything I needed to.
Both high difficulty. Mid to high.
Is Rinnegan Six Paths Chakra Sasuke versus World Tree absorbed one Rinnegan Madara. So it's not full power double Rinnegan Madara. It's just the Madara with his one Rinnegan. He's absorbed the World Tree. This is the one that fought both Naruto and Sasuke at the same time. This is probably the closest fight in the whole video. It's also one of the hardest to talk about because there's not a lot of source material to draw from. Madara's fight against Naruto and Sasuke only lasts about the length of a chapter, and that's also the only fight that he spins in this form in particular. Now, everybody knows how much I like Madara, so this might come as a surprise to some of you, but Naruto and Sasuke kinda took a big ol' poop on him in this fight. Again, I know that's probably weird for some of you to hear me say, but I mean it. Naruto and Sasuke beat him up.
Yeah, they pressured him hard.
It's pretty easy to argue that Madara only did so poorly because he was trying to figure out what Naruto and Sasuke were capable of at this point. I mean, they did get these massive power boosts out of nowhere. Not to mention they had access to all sorts of crazy new abilities. Naruto could fly, Sasuke could teleport, both of them could track his Limbo clones. There's a lot of stuff that Madara needed to take in here, and I don't think it's being unfair to say that maybe he was only at a temporary disadvantage because, like I said, he was trying to figure out what he was up against. There's a possibility that maybe he would have done better if he had gone into the fight with full intel. But at the same time, Naruto and Sasuke went up against Madara practically blind. They had no idea what he could do. As a matter of fact, this was the first time that both of them saw him in Six Paths Sage mode. So I don't think it'd be entirely honest of me to say, oh yeah, Madara was just holding back or he was caught off guard or whatever. Like, I mean, it's pretty clear that he wasn't significantly stronger than both of them at any rate. Sasuke specifically accomplishes some pretty impressive stuff in the fight too. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, he blitzes Madara from behind, and I mean, like, okay, here's the thing. It's not like he catches Madara off guard or he moves at full speed and Madara doesn't. Like, he was on his way to go get his other Rinnegan back, so you'd assume that he'd make a beeline towards Kakashi as fast as possible. And still, Sasuke came right up behind him and sliced him in half. And it's also worth mentioning that Sasuke was able to analyze Madara's max speed pretty effectively. There's a point during the fight where Madara charges straight at Sasuke with the intent of taking one of his eyes, and at the perfect moment, Sasuke uses his Rinnegan ability to switch places with his sword, causing it to impale Madara. This sort of well-timed teleportation wouldn't be possible if Sasuke couldn't read Madara's movements effectively. So not only has he shown that he is physically faster than Madara at this point, he's also able to react to most of Madara's attacks with ease. Again, you could potentially argue that maybe Madara was holding back, but there's nothing throughout the chapter that supports this idea. The answer to this one is pretty up in the air. While Sasuke is
very up in the air in my opinion.
That he is stronger and faster than Madara is, he doesn't have the same variety in his arsenal as Madara does. Madara has Wood Release, all of the Six Paths Sage mode powers, the Truth-Seeking Orbs, not to mention he has his Limbo Shadow helping him out, and he can also create clones at any point in time. Madara is also able to use Izanagi if absolutely necessary, something that Sasuke has never shown he's able to do. So it's a question of, can Madara's versatility deal with Sasuke's raw power? And I don't really know the answer to that one, but it comes down to one important fact. If Madara was actually holding back during his battle against Naruto and Sasuke, then it's pretty likely that he'd be able to beat Sasuke in a one-on-one fight. However, if he wasn't, and if he really did get the snot kicked out of him by both of them working together, then it's very possible, and honestly kind of likely, that Sasuke could take the fight instead. Now, moving on to the next round, I'll keep this brief. It's Rinnegan Sasuke versus double Rinnegan Madara, and honestly, Sasuke is pretty hard here. Obito explains that the pair of Rinnegan is much stronger as a unit.
That is correct.
Both are individually. So Madara's visual...
Alright, before he keeps going on this last round, I'm on the fence about that last one, you know, with the one-eyed Madara, you know, with the amps that he got from the Ten Tails and all that stuff. I'm on the fence because, like you said, Naruto and Sasuke were working together. Now, I think the gap between Sasuke and Madara has definitely closed with Sasuke obtaining 6-path amps and his new abilities. I'm very on the fence about that, on that fight. To me, it's pretty damn close. It's almost neck and neck, in my opinion. It's pretty close. This is one of those unquantifiable things. It's hard to really scale the two against each other, you know, with all the variables and things of that nature. My final conclusion is Sasuke wins 6 out of 10 times with high difficulty. Madara can win 4 out of 10 times with high difficulty. Now, keep in mind, that's them one-on-one, not Naruto involved. That's if Naruto wasn't in the equation. If Naruto's there, then they win. Sasuke and Naruto would win most of the time, obviously. But let's continue here.
And everything that he can pull off with the Rinnegan in general, it's just improved heavily. I mean, plus at this point he has 4 Limbo Shadows, not just 1. Not to mention, we don't even know what his Mangekyo Sharingan powers are. So, regular 6-paths chakra Rinnegan Sasuke loses, and he loses pretty handily. Madara would take it mid to low diff. But the final round that I have in mind, this one's pretty interesting. It is triple Rinnegan Madara, like the one with both of his Rinnegan and the Rinne Sharingan on his forehead, versus full maximum power Biju Chakra absorbed Sasuke. So the Sasuke that sealed all the Biju with Chibaku Tensei and absorbed their chakra during the fight against Naruto. It made his Susanoo look super crazy and also gave him a very clear edge in the battle against Naruto. We haven't seen enough of what either character can do for me to make a call here.
I agree with that.
Everything I say after this is practically headcanon. Sasuke used 1 attack after he absorbed the Biju chakra, and Madara did his little Chibaku Tensei meteor shower and then used the infinite Tsukuyomi, and then that's all he did before Zetsu stabbed him. So neither of them have any feats or frame of reference. Who wins would just be an educated guess on my part. I don't think the Limbo clones will be a huge deal for Sasuke because he was able to handle Naruto's shadow clones pretty easily. And it wasn't just like regular size Naruto. It wasn't him in base. It was like full power Kurama Avatar 6-path Sage.
Yeah, he was handling them. I agree with that.
They all
he was competitive
at the same time and they couldn't do anything. That said, Naruto was attempting to overpower Sasuke with brute force, and Madara has countless hacks and weird abilities at his disposal. So rushing Sasuke with a bunch of invisible clones from another plane of reality, I mean, maybe it'll put him at more of a disadvantage than Naruto's shadow clones. But I just thought that was worth mentioning because that's the only real insight I have into the fight. My gut's telling me to go with Madara solely because Kishimoto said himself he had no idea how to get rid of the guy. But I mean, based on hard on-panel facts, it's kind of impossible to say. Now,
it's very difficult.
Where I would get into adult Sasuke versus Jubi Jinchuriki double Rinne Sharingan Madara, but my buddy Seth the programmer has a video, or is
that's the one I already did, guys. Go check that one out.
Post this over on his channel. So if you want to get a full video dedicated to these 2 forms of Madara and Sasuke duking it out, head over to Seth's channel or just click the link in the description. I'll make sure to leave it down there. But yeah, that's everything I have to say for this video. So if you have any future versus battles you want me to cover, leave them in the comments below. Let me know what you thought about
great
this
video
battle in the comments.
as always. Swag, well done.
The video all the way to the end. Make sure you have a great rest of the day, and until my next video, I'll talk to you later. Swagkage out. Bye.
Peace. Alright, there you guys have that one. Great video as always, like I said, by Swag. Now my final thoughts on these videos here, give my 2 cents here. Yeah, Sasuke loses, you know, basically every scenario up until he gets his 6-path amps and maybe, you know, the pre Ten-Tail Jinchuriki Madara, like the one that fought Guy, I mean, that one would probably lose to Sasuke with 6-path amps. And then the one where he has, you know, he has the several amps with the one-eye Madara. That one is close, in my opinion, closer than what Swag thought, I think. Keep in mind, Naruto did a lot of heavy lifting in that one. Sasuke, did his thing too. But I'm on the fence about that one. I really am. To me, that one's pretty close. I think it's more competitive than what I gave credit for. I'm going to say Madara wins 6 out of 10 times with high difficulty. Sasuke wins 4 out of 10. Now, double Rinnegan Madara, right? That one, he wins that one because it's clear he gets a massive amplification. He wins 8 out of 10 times. Sasuke maybe wins 2, if that. And now the final one he spoke of on this video, which is the Sasuke that fought Naruto in the Valley of the End, I think he loses more times than not. And here's why. Swag has to keep in mind that Madara can also absorb ninjutsu, because obviously he has his Runnegans as well. And who knows what else he could do. We barely get to see what he's capable of. Who knows? Maybe he wouldn't even allow Sasuke to take the Biju chakra. Maybe he'd stop it. He'd be like, no, you're not taking nothing. I'm taking it. And maybe because he's stronger, he'd override Sasuke's absorption of chakra. He'd override Sasuke's absorption and absorb it himself. Imagine him absorbing all the Biju instead of Sasuke, because he is just more powerful with his Rinnegan, as being the more powerful opponent out of the two. He'd beat Sasuke, in my opinion. I think it's pretty clear, actually. So my opinion is quite different than Sasuke's. Excuse me. It's quite different than Swag's, excuse me. So I think Madara would take that one. I think he'd take it. I think he's a lot more powerful than what people give him credit for. Now, he's not Kaguya level. He's not Momoshiki or anything like that, but he's very powerful. I think he's stronger than that Sasuke. And that base Sasuke, wouldn't beat the three-eyed Madara, in my opinion. I think Naruto and Sasuke would have to work together, right? Let's say that was their final villain instead of Kaguya. They'd probably have to work together, and they would beat him. I think together they would beat him. But I'm leaning towards Madara, three-eyed Madara. Now, I know there's going to be people that disagree. They're going to say, no, Sasuke wins. But I don't know. That's a tough one. Like I said, a lot of these scenarios are quite difficult to really get a grasp on, due to the unquantifiable amounts of power that both of these guys possess. And, the kind of minuscule amount of feats of each opponent. Obviously, Sasuke, we get a small dose of what he's capable of against Naruto. We get a small dose of what three-eyed Madara is capable of. And just in general, what Madara is capable of, right? So these are quite tough. So I probably wouldn't disagree with, if you guys comment, and please feel free to do so. I like to see you guys' opinion. If you guys give me, good, solid logic, I'll probably agree with you, even if you disagree with me. This is kind of off the cuff, off of my interpretation. And there's several interpretations that make sense in a tightly knitted or unknown matchup, right? The tightly knitted ones, you guys can go back and forth and, come to some middle ground. The ones where you got to use a lot of headcanon, such as the last one that Swag pointed out, that's one where, the best educated guess wins. So please feel free to give me your comments in the comment section. And of course, let me know of any more recommendations you folks have. I love you all. I rock with y'all. And I'll catch you in the next video. This is Jither Gray signing out. Peace.